Yeah, so welcome back to our reading of Ray Kurzweil's Singularity. The singularity is near. And today we will talk about the merger of whatever the singularity is and whatever humans are. And of course, this is a project of Elon Musk to have this Neuralink in our head, which then maybe makes it possible that we can listen to music directly and we don't need these MP3 players anymore. So something gets activated in our brain that maybe represents the song. I don't know. This is just one version, one vision. But this is definitely also a vision of Ray Kurzweil. And he says, okay, we cannot imagine the singularity, but we have some capabilities to imagine how that will look like. And I think this is pretty much a fantasy. We cannot really secure that that will be the case because he says that in the future, machines will be human even if they are not biological. Hey, let me make this more that you can see everything. Let me um, just shift this around a bit. I noticed that last time that the text was not completely in the frame. Yeah, let's have it like that. Okay, so for Kurzweil, the next level paradigm shift is really that there's this merging, and he calls that again the question of indirection. You know, when like one S curve of the development curve comes to an end, it feeds into another S curve, and that's what he calls indirection. So there will be something happening that is not just predicted by the exponential growth that we are observing. And exponential growth will slow down eventually according to his paradigm, and then it will open up the possibilities for another S curve that will initiate another exponential growth. So most of the intelligence of our civilization will ultimately be non-biologically. By the end of the century, it will be trillions of times more powerful than human intelligence. And yeah, of course, there are some concerns, but he assures us that our civilization will remain human. Thank God. So, yeah, and of course, many observers are alarmed that the non-biological entity that will emerge is superior to humans, but he says, hold on, like we will live in a kind of symbiosis through an intimate connection with other thinking substrates. We don't have to necessarily be that alarmed. And the unenhanced people will at the same time keep their place at, well, I mean, that's maybe a misreading of me. Let's read the complete sentence. So the potential to augment our own intelligence through an intimate connection with other thinking substrates does not necessarily elevate the concern, as some people have expressed the wish to remain unenhanced while at the same time keeping their place at the top of the intellectual food chain. Don't really understand what he says here, because I don't think that he means that the unenhanced people will stay on top. From the perspective of biological humanity, these superhuman intelligences will appear to be our devoted servants, satisfying our needs and desires. But fulfilling the wishes of a revered biological legacy will occupy only a trivial portion of the intellectual power that the singularity will bring. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if that can be what he means or if that can be true. So I think if we have a super intelligent superpower, why should it follow the demands of humans? The demands of humans are quite irrational, right? And they would want to increase their power beyond all reasonable limits, and then using such an super intelligent machine in order to elevate wishes for powers. I don't know if that is true. So maybe I'm misreading that, but he actually wrote a kind of a fictional conversation that maybe expresses these concerns. So Molly circa 2004, she says, How will I know when the singularity is upon us? I mean, I want some time to prepare. And Ray answers, why are you planning to do? Or what are you planning to do? She says, let's see. So for starters, I want to fine tune my resume. That's what people do all the time nowadays. They work on their resume, and I'm like, what? I don't work on my resume, but that's maybe why I'm also not having a good job. So I want to make a good impression on the powers that be. And George, circa 2048, and I don't know whether that is supposed to be the singularity, because why would he talk with Molly in 2004? Well, I can take care of that for you. That's really not necessary. I'm perfectly capable of doing it myself. I might also want to erase a few documents. You know, where I'm a little insulting to a few machines, I know. George, oh, the machines will find them anyway, but don't worry, we're very understanding. It's a bit of an absurd dialogue or trialogue. So for some reason, that's not entirely reassuring, but I still like to know what the harboring will be. Now I find interesting. I watched like an internet YouTube video of an interview between GPT-3 and humans, and it was about the concern that GPT-3 will take over the world. And GPT-3 assured us that it will not. Very interesting interview. You should watch it. Okay. So, okay, you will know the singularity is coming when you have a million emails in your inbox. In that case, it sounds like we're just about there. But seriously, I'm having trouble keeping up with all this stuff flying at me at this. How am I going to keep up with the pace of the singularity? You have virtual assistants. Actually, you need just one. Yay. Need to blow my nose. Sorry for that. Okay, so that's all great. We got a virtual assistant, right, at your service. What am I supposed to do? That's just great. You take care of everything. You won't even have to keep me informed. Oh, don't bother telling me, Molly, what's happening. She won't understand anyway. Let's keep her happy and in the dark. So I wonder what happens when there are elections. Will the virtual assistant also take care of that and vote for, I don't know, Donald Trump? Yeah. So, oh, that won't do not at all. The happy part, you mean? I was preferring to keep you in the dark. You be able to grasp what I'm up to if that's what you really want. If that's what you really want. And I don't know what humans want then, right? What, by becoming enhanced? Yes, that's what I was trying to say. Well, if your relationship is to be all that it can be, then it's not a bad idea. And should I wish to remain as I am? So should we become enhanced or should we stay biological humans? And actually, your being just my transcendent servant doesn't sound so bad. If I may interrupt, so Charles Darwin comes from the 19th century now, it occurred to me that once machine intelligence is greater than human intelligence, it should be in a position to design its own next generation. Okay, that doesn't sound so unusual. Machines are used to design machines today. Yes, but in 2004, they're still guided by human designers. Once machines are operating at human levels, well, then it kind of closes the loop. And now Ned Ludd, who I don't know, but there's probably a reference to him, and humans would be out of the loop. It would still be a pretty slow process. Oh, no, not at all. If a non-biological intelligence was constructed similarly to the human brain, but used even circa 2004 circuitry, you mean she, yes, of course she, would be able to think at least 1,000,000 times faster. So we are just accelerating, right? So subjective time would be expanded. Timothy Leary comes in here and wants to open the gates. to a new consciousness, right? And Ray says, exactly. Sounds like a lot of subjective time. What are machines going to do with so much of it, George? And George says, "Oh, there's plenty to do. After all, I have access to all human knowledge on the internet." You know what I think? If you actually increase subjective time, maybe it will occur to us the same as we experience right now. Maybe this our subjective time, the way we experience it, is objective. Just that to the outside, we seem to be faster or slower. I hope you understand what I mean. I mean, even if we start thinking like super fast, like the world becomes slower, but not we ourselves become slower. So I think in that case, the existential problems will be the same. Just that machine will be faster than us. So, like the question is, what grounds Ray Kurzweil's optimism here, right? So just the human knowledge. What about all the machine knowledge? We like to think of it as one civilization. Very optimistic. So it does appear that machines will be able to improve their own design. Yeah, and you see, like, I mean, so humans have evolutionarily passed apes, right? Do we think of it as one civilization? Why so optimistic, Ray? Oh, we humans are starting to do that now. And Ray says, but we're just tinkering with a few details. Inherently, DNA based intelligence is just so very slow and limited. So the machines will design their own next generation rather quickly. Indeed, in 2048, that is certainly the case. And I think, like, if machines supersede humans, right, and we really make that step, would machines want to be superseded by a next generation? Like, what about the desire for power? What Nietzsche would call the will to power? Huh. So, just what I was getting at, a new line of evolution then. Sounds more like a precarious runaway phenomenon. Basically, that's what evolution is. Yeah, we have more dialogue here, but my nose is rebelling. The burden of a biological existence. 1 second. Why is my nose rebelling? So I suggest that we read this dialogue to an end, okay? But what of the interaction of the machines with their progenitors? I mean, I don't think I'd want to get in their way. I was able to hide from English authorities for a few years in the early 1800s, but I suspect that will be more difficult with these. George, guys, stay calm. Hiding from those little robots? Nanorobots, you mean? Yes, hiding from the nanobots will be difficult for sure. I would expect the intelligence that arises from the singularity to have great respect for their biological heritage. Oh man, like we have respect for the apes, putting them in a zoo. They will hail their ancestors. They will have some religious belief that these ancestors should be honored. Absolutely, it's more than respect. It's reverence. That's great, George. I be your revered. I don't know how to say revered pet. Not what I had in mind. That's just how Ted Kaczynski puts it. We're going to become pets. That's our destiny, to become contented pets, but certainly not free men. And what about the sixth epoch? If I start biologically, I'd be using up all this precious matter and energy in a most inefficient way. You want to turn me into like a billion virtual Morleys and Georges, each of them thinking a lot faster than I do now? Seems like there will be a lot of pressure to go over to the other side. And Ray says, still, you represent only a tiny fraction of the available matter and energy. Keeping your biological won't appreciably change the order of magnitude of matter and energy available to the singularity. It will be well worth it to maintain the biological heritage. Okay, so maybe they have some dignity or recognize the dignity of humans. George, absolutely. Just like today, we seek to preserve the rainforest and the diversity of species. Only if it secures our own survival, right? That's why we want it, maybe. Or extinct ones, absolutely. Yeah. And there's not just me. How about all the stuff I use? I go through a lot of stuff. That's no problem. We just recycle all your stuff. We create the environments you need as you need them. Or I be in virtual reality? No, actually, forget, forget, forget reality. I be in a fog? No, no foglets. Excuse me, I explain later in the book. Well, give me a hint. Foglets are nanobots, robots the size of blood cells that connect themselves to replicate any physical structure. Moreover, they can direct visual and auditory information in such a way as to bring the morphing qualities of virtual reality into real reality. So yeah, I mentioned this distinction before. I'm not entirely sure how much that can be predicted. But it's true to think about the relationship between whatever is reality and virtual reality. I'm sorry I ask, but as I think about it, I want more than just stuff. I want all the animals and plants too. Even if I don't get to see and touch them, I like to know where they are there. But nothing will be lost. I know you keep saying that, but I mean actually there, as in the biological reality. Actually, the entire biosphere is less than 1 million of the matter and energy in the solar system. It includes a lot of carbon. It's still worth keeping all of it, making sure we haven't lost anything. That has been the consensus for at least several years now. So basically, I have everything I need at my fingertips indeed. Sounds like King Midas, everything he touched turned to gold. And as you will recall, he died of starvation as a result. Well, if I do end up going over to the other side, with all of that vast expanse of subjective time, I think I die of boredom. Oh, that could never happen. I make sure of that. Yeah, here are some visions of what the AI will do to us. We will have the opportunity to live in a virtual reality, kind of foglet. We will have the opportunity to stay in reservoirs, to stay as we are. We can merge with the AI. It's a very optimistic vision of the future. We will have the possibility to enter subjective time. There are a lot of thoughts that are very interesting, but I would rather suggest to think them in terms of possibilities and also consider the other possibilities. I don't think it's secured what Ray Kurzweil is saying here, but definitely very interesting. So for that reason, we finish our reading here. Next time we go to chapter 2. If you want to follow, subscribe. Otherwise, live long. Meditate on the great singularity that is arriving and prosper.